Now, what does the IPID charge against National Police Commissioner Khehla Sitole reveal about the state of policing in South Africa? Senior Policing and Global Security Specialist Eldred Klerk and the South African Police Union National Spokesperson Lesiba Thobakgale joins us now to unpack this further. Gentlemen, good evening and thank you very much for your time. First, you have a leaked IPID communication, correspondence with the minister that makes itself to the media. That in itself is something that we need to reflect on. You have the minister confirming that, yes, indeed, I have received this. There is a criminal case that has been opened. I forwarded this to the president. Now, we have the police boss coming out and denying these claims. He refuses to cooperate with IPID, he says, because he says, I am the one who opened this case. Why would I refuse to cooperate with an investigation which I instituted? Now, does this in any way reflect the state of the crisis in police management in this country? Eldred?
Indeed, we are sitting with a crisis. It seems like the circus has come to town. It's unfortunate that we would think that a document has to be leaked to be in the public interest when a senior public official of the rank or stature of, or the office of the Director General, as an institution proceeds to criminally charge him or her, one would think that that's immediately in the public interest. It's how we would want to know that that has happened. Of course, the detail of that would come out during the process of adjudication of that particular set of charges. The fact, though, should be known and should be in the public interest. We then don't need the individual who said charge to offer any explanation other than, I've received the charge sheet against me. I will now use the process that should be expeditious. It should be decisive. And we would hope that it's also transparent to answer the case that I've been asked to answer. Otherwise, it just becomes this he said, tit for tat. And that's definitely not in the public interest because it undermines confidence in the institution and it undermines confidence in the authority of the state to adjudicate these kind of issues.
Yeah. The very same act, Lesiba, of IPID coming out saying the police commissioner is not cooperating, and then the police commissioner coming out later saying he refutes that he's not cooperating. That in itself tells you that there is an impasse here. There is a degree of not seeing eye to eye. It doesn't matter whether it's coming from the fact that the police commissioner is cooperating or it's not. But them coming out with these differing statements tells us that there is a tug of war that is going on between the two bodies. What is behind this impasse?
It is unfortunate that the situation currently is that someone said something else, and that is not what is expected from an institution like IPID, and also institution like the South African Police Services, where cooperation is expected between both institutions when certain things need to be followed. So, as SAP, it is our strong belief that these institutions, indeed, they need one another in order for them to function properly. And it is expected that both institutions, they have whatever issues, if there's any issues that are underlying, that are there amongst both institutions, those issues, they need to be ironed out so that both institutions can carry out their mandates. Because IPID has the IPID Act, which guides the minister in terms of what's supposed to happen. And as a police official, you know, if IPID approaches you on any issue, what is it that you need to give? You need to give cooperation. But the issue where a document is leaked and, it is said by IPID that it was not supposed to be in the public domain at that time. So even that in itself, it is a worrying factor for if indeed it is a matter that is, it has public interest. Why should documents be leaked? Why can't processes be followed in accordance between both institutions?
Yeah. As you mentioned, as police officers, you know what is supposed to happen when IPID comes to you and says, I need your cooperation in this particular matter. Now, if the highest police officer in the country is not cooperating with IPID, what is the impact of this on those at a lower level than him in the future in wanting to cooperate with this body?
Thabo, IPID should be respected. That is a principle that we are holding as SAPO. Whether IPID approaches a constable who just got involved in the shooting and there's allegations of anything else, then IPID comes in, they expect cooperation from that constable. Or be it a national commissioner. A national commissioner is also expected to cooperate with IPID. And in this instance, it is alleged by IPID to say that the national commissioner did not cooperate with them or with the investigation and whatever information that they might have needed from the national commissioner. And as SAPO, we are saying that if those allegations that IPID are putting out there, because we don't think that IPID, without facts, can just go and open a case. If those allegations indeed are true, like anyone else, as we have said earlier, the law has to be allowed to take its course. Whether it is the national commissioner or it is a sergeant within a police station, cooperation has to happen. But we should also guard against, trying anyone, be it a national commissioner, be it a constable within the SAPS, on the media, without looking into the facts. Because as we speak, Thabo, we do not know the case number or the facts, even A1 or A2 statement, or whatever that is contained within that document. But if those allegations indeed are true, that there was no cooperation between the National Commissioner and IPID, then the law has to take its course. That investigation and the outcomes would then be taken to court, and even anything that has to happen within the department in terms of the procedures has to be followed if those allegations are true.
All right, let's take a break. We'll continue with the conversation next. Senior Policing and Global Security Specialist Eldred Klerk, SAPO National Spokesperson Lesiba Thobakgale, staying with us on In Focus. We're back in a moment. Welcome back. It has been one of the leading stories today, the matter of the police commissioner possibly facing criminal charges brought on by IPID for refusing to cooperate rather with the probe into the matters surrounding the killing of Charles Khehla. Senior Policing and Global Security Specialist Eldred Klerk with us, as well as SAPO's National Spokesperson Lesiba Thobakgale. Now, Eldred, there is already a court judgment against the police commissioner. There are reports and be it allegations, of course, that part of what is being investigated in this particular matter is the fact that Charles Khehla did raise a question of his safety with the police commissioner and the involvement of some police, in a sense, in trying to silence him from the work that he was doing. Putting all these together, and of course these latest reports around his refusal to cooperate with this process, does this make him unfit to be in that particular position, particularly considering the president has been sitting for months now with that particular decision from coming to the fore?
Well, you're right to point out that we're dealing with two very different things here. We're dealing with the potential of a criminal charge or a criminal hearing relating to not cooperating under the IPID Act, and then also the issues around the Criminal Procedure Act. And then we have, under the Constitution and the SATS Act, we have the responsibility for determining whether somebody's fit for office or whether we've lost confidence in the incumbent. That's another process altogether. It's unfortunate that there has been a court judgment that has found the National Commissioner and a few others already to say that their actions has been questionable, the decisions has been questionable, and there is a case to be heard in terms of whether he continues to enjoy our confidence and trust and whether you should still hold the office. We would hope then that now, given this additional charges and allegations, that now that process of resolving that uncertainty as expeditiously as possibly and as decisively and transparently as possible as actually as actioned. Because now it becomes a question of public leadership. And we would look to the president and the ministry to lead on these issues and expeditiously undertake a process to resolve these uncertainties, because the rank and file members cannot operate optimally under those conditions where they look to the senior management for their own protection and as a duty of care to both lead them strategically and operationally, to care for their operational needs and their health and wellness, and to look out for their interests as members. If there's uncertainty at the top, if there's seemingly impunity at the top, it undermines confidence in the institutions and it erodes both the operational readiness and morale of the rank and file members. So now it's incumbent upon the political and public leadership to move expeditiously to determine whether the National Commissioner is fit for office or whether we've lost confidence in him.
Yeah. Lesiba, from SAPU's point of view, yes, for sure we know that there is a court judgment against the police commissioner. Of course, still to be known whether he's challenging it and how far that particular process is going to go. But there is also, if it's to be believed, an investigation that there was a Hawks report that was looking at whether or not Charles Kinnear's life was in danger, that was ignored, and that's what IPID is investigating. What would be the position of SAPU then on the police commissioner's ability and competency in staying in that position?
From our side as SAPU, it is our strong belief that the president, from January when the court judgment came out, the president in October, he then served him with a notice of suspension, for him in order to look at whether is he eligible to continue to be the national commissioner, or he's supposed to go through to the board of inquiry to look at the fitness for him to hold office. We are just concerned deeply by the silence and the absence of the president with this regard when we come to look and zooming deeper into issues of national interest. Here, a police official, was murdered brutally so, and here there is also this judgment that came from court. And we strongly believe that for a long time, the president, indeed, is supposed to have acted in this matter in order to put it to rest, not to continue to have a national commissioner who has a cloud on top of his head, and the president has not decided in terms of what should happen. And in doing that, there should not even be any political interference or any political scores that are settled. Because, for the president to keep quiet from October, now we are in January, we are just approaching February, and there is just a whole lot of issues that emerge. It is indeed a worrying factor, because leadership and certainty within the South African police services, it is one of the critical issues that are needed, because this is a militarized organization where command and control, it is taking a center stage. And when members are working, they are looking at their leader to say the leader is giving the marching orders of where are we going. So currently we are finding ourselves under a situation or circumstances whereby we have the national commissioner who still has a cloud that is hanging on his head, but yet his employer, who's the president, who's supposed to ensure that there is certainty within the police. He should make a decision whether is he still keeping the national commissioner within the SAPS or he's not doing that. Yeah. So that is where we are. The deciding factor, it lays with the number one head of the state in this regard. And that is where we are calling as SAPU to say that the president should have acted long time in order to put this matter to rest, and based on whatever decision that he would have taken, based on what is presented before himself.
As SAPU members who are directly affected by this instability, why have you not put pressure to get word out from the president, who's seemingly undecisive when it comes to this matter?
If we check the record, Gutabo, as SAPU, we have been out there, saying that the president indeed needs to put this matter to finality, because we understand that the issue of leadership is so important within the South African police services, in order for the operations, in order for the administrative part of it, in order for anything that is policy related, for it to be effective. Stability within leadership, it is more important. That is why we even called to say there should not be any form of political interference that is there within policy. Because if that is the case, then you would find that it will just aggravate, the lack of stability within the South African police service. So we've been making that call several times to say the president needs to put this matter to rest, because he is the employer of the national commissioner, and he is the one who has to decide what should happen with him with this regard.
Eldred, these inconsistencies that are being reported on the lead-up to the assassination of Khehla are a worrying factor around what is actually happening within our police service. How do we deal with that? I mean, particularly rooting it out. Yes, we can further expose the police commissioner, maybe further expose others within the top structures of the police. But what more needs to happen here? In an ideal world, if you are the president, how do you respond to this?
Well, the president has a number of findings and a number of analysis and papers reflecting on this, but we also have the National Development Plan. Now we need, as Lesiba said, we now need political will to ensure that action follows the recommendations already been made. We've spoken about the fact that we need to professionalize the South African police service, that every position should be based on a question of competency, that every senior manager and every other leader within the South African police service should be subjected to an integrity audit, a lifestyle audit, and a critical skills audit. And that this is not a question of restructuring, it's a question of now ensuring that we have a South African police service that is beholden to a public and political authority, and that they uphold and respect the law, and that certain standards for policing and performance is set, and that to help with that, we institute or we establish a national policing board that will also hold the unions and other individuals who can judge the police and actually help the police become this professional entity where there is peer review with ethics and values, become the bedrock of policing in South Africa. And that police forms part of this national security architecture that pegs itself against the national security strategy. So there are suggestions on the table, and we need now, including the presidential review panel from July, we have the panel of experts report, and we have the National Development Plan 2030 and 2030 just round the corner, Bratabo. So now it is incumbent upon the president to actually start to action those things and ensure that policing is not just restructured, but that it's transformed. Because we do have a particular recipe and set of interventions that can transform the South African police into a professional, competent, principled institution made out of individuals who uphold and respect the law.
Yeah. There's another issue that's arising here, Eldred. That's the issue of the protection of detectives in particular. We are talking protection of whistleblowers is one area which is quite weak. Now you're speaking of standards. Do we have standards on what needs to be happening around the protection of detectives? Because it seems here the protection that was offered to the murdered detective was quite insufficient, or at least it's been questioned.
Well, we may have protocols and standing operation procedures and national instructions. What we seem not to have is an understanding that leadership, authority, and power comes with duty. And we seem to have a failure of a duty to care and a duty to protect, and then a duty to serve both the members and the community or the public at large. So it's actually incumbent upon the professional police unions like SAPU and POPCRU and the public service institutions to ensure that the leadership of the South African Police Service is held to account for the protection, the duty to protect members, and the duties to care for them. And don't sell me, the good talk about health and wellness and all of those things. All of that is in place. And all we need now is for command not to, as they say, simply be a question of instilling discipline, but it's also a question of instilling respect, and it's a question of supporting officers so that they can speak up when they are hurt, they speak up when they see something wrong, and they are supported when they feel that their life is threatened or that their fellow officers is doing something to undermine both the image of the South African Police Service and confidence in the South African Police Service. Because currently there seems to be a pervasive culture where officers don't feel free to speak up, and that is very worrisome. And that's a leadership issue within the police. So we do need to look, as the National Development Plan has said, at the question of leadership and not just command. Question of leadership, which encompasses care and protection, and a duty to do both of those.
Lesiba, weigh in on that. Why is there clarity being sought after the fact around the level of protection that was offered the Detective Charles Khehla, and why are these issues not being able to be raised within the quarters of the police before a tragedy occurs?
As SAPU, we strongly believe that one has to care about the members. One has to care about the interests of the service. One has to care fully about what happens to the members. And as Eldred has said, there are policies, there is everything that is there in place that guides everyone to say what should happen, when, and how should it be conducted. And the question now comes in to say, is there a will in order to ensure that everything that is in place, if it is the NDP, if it is the panel of experts, report and recommendations that are there to say what should happen in terms of the status of policing within our country, how do we then look at the issues of to ensure that the detectives that we mentioned, like our late Khehla, those who face the same circumstances that he was facing, how do they get protected? I think the first thing, it starts with the issue of management, to say, is management putting themselves into the shoes of those members? Do they really understand the plight that those members are having as they are performing their duties? Because obviously, as a police official, here and there, you will make enemies whilst you are performing your duties, and thus you will become a target. Then it takes the center stage that management comes there and also have that will to put themselves in the shoes of those members in order to give them the necessary support, which will then ensure that support and also protection is given to them at all times, so that they can be able to conduct their duties with freedom and to be able to perform those duties, knowing that very well that they are protected. And the issue of protection, it should not be something that it is debatable. If there is a need for a detective or a member who needs to be given protection, it should be given, because there would be a reason. And the reports are done, crime intelligence, they do those assessments in order to determine who needs such protection. So those things, they boil back to the will, to say, is the leadership taking a center stage here? Do they have a will in order to ensure that they want to see the South African police services prospering in what they are doing in order for them to protect the members who are performing those duties and they need protection?
Gentlemen, I appreciate your time. Let's leave it there for tonight. Thank you very much for coming on. Lesiba Thobakgale there and Eldred de Klerk helping us in that conversation.